He ended up giving me a surfboard. I can't remember what size, probably about a 6.0 and stuff like that. And then I had my first surfboard, and I just really enjoyed, surfing and growing up with all of the young kids around Coolangatta. There was Tony Ray, Craig Charman and his brother Snail.
What a shaper. Back in the day, wow, he had a pretty good team, didn't he? Like Zappa and Guy Omerod and Bruce Lee. Like, mate, it's a great team. Yep, no. Yep, nah, like that. Are their eyes that good, or is it like, is that true, what they do? Sometimes they just look at them before they don't actually surf them, they just sort of see something they don't like?
I think any person that gets that opportunity to stand up on a wave, that's why I think the increasing of women surfing at the moment is because it feels so good once you stand up on the wave.
But what's your favourite go-to board at the moment? Welcome to the Green Room, your backstage pass to the world of surfing. I'm your host, surf MC and commentator Terry Tappa, diving into epic wins, crushing fails and wild stories with surfing's biggest names. So wax up, paddle out and join us in the Green Room, where the surf chat never goes flat. Today's guest is one of the best surfboard shapers in the world, best in the business and shaper to world champions and future world champions. A Gold Coast and Kirra local. I first met Darren when we were grommets competing in the Gold Coast and Queensland titles and surfing back at the southern end of the Gold Coast back in the late 70s and 80s when Noah played halfback for Jerusalem. Darren's a little bit older than me and one division up, so now if you Google this man, beside his surfboard brand, you get a former AFL player, which is a bit of a coincidence. But a quality surfer. Darren's not just a shaper, but an innovative businessman, a talented sportsman in his own right, and a proud member of the Kirra Surf Riders. Welcome to the Green Room, Darren Handley.
Well, thanks for the intro, Tappa.
I don't always like doing that, but, mate, it's all true. Well, most of it, I hope.
Yeah, no, it's all pretty good. I mean, growing up in Kirra was where it all started, and having football and surfing at my hands, and really enjoyed it. And shaping came after that. And
mate, so you were actually born on the Gold Coast?
No, I wasn't born on the Gold Coast. My dad, he's originally from Narrabeen. He actually formed the Narrabeen. He's like part of the forming of Narrabeen Board Riders.
Wow.
And he decided to follow everyone that was coming to Queensland back in the 50s, and came up to Queensland and spent a lot of time up here, and then went back to Sydney and started selling used cars and stuff like that. And then after a while, I was born, and Dad said to Mum, let's go back to Queensland. And so I've been up here since I've been about 5 years old.
That's pretty good, mate. Now, people don't know this, but you're a pretty talented Australian rules football player. For those who are not from Australia, that's a code of football, jump around and go. Pretty tough, but mate, you love playing at Aussie rules. What came first, footy or surfing?
Football. As a kid, I didn't really start surfing until I was 12 years old. So I was playing soccer, then playing for Seagulls Rugby League, and then I went down. I could hear this whistle all the time. I lived in Kirra, and there was a football AFL oval right there, and I kept on hearing this whistle. They blow it every time you catch the ball. Penalties. It must be blown 100 times a game. And I got out of bed, went down and said, what the hell is this whistle? And then I met a few guys that I went to school, Ian Fraser, he's the coach now of the Masters football, but went there and they said, you want to play? And I went home, said, Mum, they want me to play. So I went down, played that, and it was fantastic. And I just really enjoyed it. But then after a few years, surfing took hold of me, and then I just wanted to surf more than I wanted to play football.
But, mate, you still play seniors footy today, don't you?
Yeah, we played in the over 60s last year. We played for Queensland to play against all the states in Australia, and we play every two weeks in the football season because we need 2 weeks to get over it. Because
I've seen Fraser when he walks into the office on Monday morning, mate.
But it's footy for fun. There's no grand finals, and footy's a really good release for me because if I go for a surf, everyone wants to ask me about a board or about, can I get or this board's got a ding in it or whatever it is. When I go on the football field, no one knows who I am. So I just go and have some fun, and that gives me my release.
But what people don't know, I was out at Currumbin Surf Club one night, and I see this bloke with his lovely wife, Kim. He's sitting there, and he's got a bit of bark off him, and he's strapped up, and I go, what have you been doing? And he played seniors, reserves and filled in the A grade. That was only a few years ago, wasn't it?
It was like, we're talking a little bit more than 15 years ago that's when I came back to play.
Yeah.
And then I just got the bug again because I didn't play seniors football. That's why I think I can still play okay, because I didn't play that seniors football where you get all the injuries and your body just wears out. So that's why I think I can still run, and I really enjoy it. It's so much fun.
I know you can run. Fraser told me this bloke at the Australian Carnival, the fastest footballer in the over 60s in the sprint. What do you do, 100 metres or something?
100 metres, yeah. But I won the 60s, I won the 55s, I won the 40s, I won the 45s. So I go in it every year in my age group, and I was a sprinter when I was young. I'm like, even in nippers, won some Australian sprint champions when I was in nippers, in Greenmount nippers. So I've always been pretty fast. Growing up in Kirra, running away from the cops, probably keeps you nice and quick.
Oh, mate, sounds like a Tommy story, Nelly.
Yeah,
Tommy Vale, Tommy. Oh, mate. Now, like, when did you start surfing? You said about 12, did you?
12, yep.
Yeah. And what sort of got you into surfing?
My dad, he was working because he came up and had to work, to buy a house and stuff. We bought a house in Kirra, and so he worked a fair bit. And then once he sort of got more established, then he started surfing again. And I just went out surfing with him one day, and on his big, I can still remember, there's probably about a 7'4" purple board, and jumped on it, and it was fantastic. And there was a surfboard sprayer named Shane Egan. He was friends of the Charltons, which are a big Kirra family. He ended up giving me a surfboard. I can't remember what size, probably about a 6.0 and stuff like that. And then I had my first surfboard, and I just really enjoyed, surfing, and growing up with all of the young kids around Coolangatta. There was Tony Ray, Craig Charman and his brother Snail. There was a lot. It was
Statsy, Hoppy.
Yeah, but the thing too is with Kirra, it was a real country town. So there was a lot of commission homes in there, so a lot of Aboriginal kids as well. And, I went to school with all those kids on top of the hill at Kirra. So it was a real tight community. You just knew everyone, and then they all started surfing, and we sort of started the kids surfing, because it was all just old bloke surfing when I sort of started.
Yeah. And, mate, that school that you went to, that's got to be, well, it's not a school anymore, but that was the school with the best view in the world, mate, a view of Kirra Point right on top of the hill.
Oh, that was the best school, like at lunchtime and recess. You go up there and look at the waves, look at the ocean. We used to have competitions who could throw like a model, like a paper aeroplane to see if you could get it to fly and glide all the way to the ocean. And kids
that sounds pretty cool.
Kids got in trouble for throwing rocks at cars. And, but yeah, great school, very small school, and then they end up moving it down to the bottom of Kirra near the football oval.
Mate, back then, I know just as well as you, I used to come down, and go surf with Robbie, Reg, Snail and all those boys. But it was a bit different, like to the Superbank days now. The waves were so different, weren't they?
I think Kirra was better then than it has been.
I agree, yeah.
But there was days, because the sand wrapped the points. It didn't push away from the points like it does today. So, don't get me wrong, Greenmount snap a rainbow. You wouldn't trade that in for how many times we get that, because some of these kids wouldn't realise that if there wasn't that sand pumping, there'd be big. You can go 6-8 months without surfing snapper because of the big holes. But it used to hug the points, but Kirra was the best because you could jump off the groin. It was longer, but the biggest thing was the crowd factor.
Oh, I remember, like Burleigh and Kirra, they were crowded back then, even when we were kids, eh? They were the crowded spot around.
Yeah. But still nothing like today.
Oh, nah, nothing like today. But I remember too, like the Cooley Beach breaks. In winter, I used to get some great lefts and rights in the middle of Coolangatta. It used to be great.
Yeah, that was 92, that 92, 93 was that bank that formed there. I don't know how it formed. It'll never do it again. I know that only because Murray Burton made some T-shirts about it, and because it had a left on it, and there's not many lefts on the Gold Coast. All those goofy footers were like flies and shit, just coming down and so for that left.
Goofy footers and lefts, mate.
Oh, you just had to fight. You just knew you couldn't go left because they wanted every left.
Mate, from my memory, you're a talented surfer, but I seem to remember that you really hit your surfing ability strides in your late teens. You seemed, and you won a Queensland title, didn't you?
I didn't win it. I got second in the Queensland titles. It sort of happened because good mate of mine, Richard Dog Marsh and Jason Marsh, his brother. Richard.
Dog and
coach.
Yeah.
They came up from Cronulla and I was living with them. That was where I first moved out of home, and they came and joined Kirra Board Riders, and Dog and Jason were winning, and I was getting thirds and fourth, and I really put a pep in my step, going, I've got to lift my game. I was just surfing for fun.
Yeah.
And that really gave me the motivation. But what also made the difference is that then I started working at Pipe Dream as just a shit kicker, and started sanding and stuff. Then I started getting some good surfboards.
Yeah, mate. The Pipe Dream, Murray Burton, mate. What a shaper. Back in the day, wow, he had a pretty good team, didn't he? Like Zappa and Guy Omerod and Bruce Lee. Like, mate, it's a great team.
Yeah, the list goes on. He's actually probably, if it wasn't for Murray and me sort of being there and teaching all these people to make surfboards, there probably wouldn't be the JSs and the Glass Labs, because even Adam from Glass Lab, like, he used to sweep the floors at our factory.
Wow.
So they all learnt from that, Sparrow, who else? There's lots of them. They all sort of learnt under Murray's roof. There was Noddy, that Shaping Co. was small. And we, our biggest competitor was Mount Woodgee. That was fun.
Yeah, that was at Crummer. Then there was like Dick Van up the coast.
Yeah, well, he was, Burleigh was like a long way away for us.
Absolutely needed a passport,
we didn't
mate.
even, it would never, like, to go to Burleigh was like, it's too far.
Mate, I remember when I was surfing Queensland titles, I'd have or Gold Coast, so they'd have a round at Burleigh. And by the time you blokes from the southern end got out, you're all rattled because you'd never jumped off rocks like that or anything. It was like a complete new experience.
Yeah. Well, I always knew when Burleigh was no good because Dwayne Harris would be out surfing D-Bar and, or Brizzo, and that would only happen, 3 times a year.
Yeah.
So they're always surfing the rock break and staying in their hood.
Mate, I used to go down to D-Bar on Friday mornings after Dollar Night at the Patch. That was the guy.
I was... Those memories, I mean, the Dollar Nights of the Patch, that'll never happen again.
No, I don't think so. Well, it won't for me. I haven't drank for 8 years, so I don't think
$100 nights.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, and the playroom had one too.
Yeah.
So it was Friday morning. That was the time to surf.
That's right.
Because everybody was gone. Now, mate, when did you working at Murray? You ended up shaping at Pipe Dream as well, didn't you?
Yeah. So I worked for Murray for 11 years. Did my full apprenticeship from making fins, glassing boards, sanding boards. And then I was managing the place. We had 3 retail stores and we were going really good. And then I started shaping. And that was sort of a little bit by accident. I didn't actually strive to wake up one day and want to be a shaper. I just saw an old blank sitting in corners that had been there for 4 or 5 years. And I just said, Murray, can I play around with that? And I shaped it, made it for my brother and glassed it all. And God, that was fun. Can I do it again? And then I didn't realise, but I had the skills to bend blanks, and because the boards were quite flat and they were really hard to surf. And I just started making boards and bending them. And then all of a sudden the team riders for Murray were getting boards from me. So I really sort of started to stand out. And then it was time for me to go and, do my own thing, just like any apprentice does.
Yeah. Well, mate, that's one thing I noticed when you first, the DHD was first coming out, your boards were different. And this is one thing that I found different. Back in the day, all the tails on the board went down and they went curved down to a flat bottom. Yours had this square cutoff. That was the first thing where'd you get that from, that square cutoff thing? I don't know. You might have got it somewhere else. I don't know. But I just remembered seeing it going, that looks weird, but they went.
A sort of funny little story is that, and I got that from France, right? That's where it came from. Murray, I was 3 years into shaping, and then there was this chance to go to France and shape, and it was all hand planing, and we were using half these profile machines and half hand planing. So I went to France. Maurice Cole was the boss, and he showed me how to hand plane, what he was looking for over there. I had to do 100 boards in 6 months in France. It was fantastic. But I was watching him. He was at the key point of his shaping, and there was boards there with these square little rails, and he didn't like them. But I looked at it and I understood what he was trying to do. So when I came back from there, I started putting that square bit in the rail, And then I did that 100 boards, and it was fantastic. And then got the contract to do another 100 the next year. And I went back and said to Morris, "How do we do?" And he goes, "Oh, pretty good." He goes, "But there's a bit of a problem." And I've gone, "What's that?" And he goes, "Oh, because of the logo, the Pipe Dream logo, which is PD on the board."
Yeah.
And I go, "Well, yeah, what's the matter with PD?" And he goes, "Well, in French, PD means poufta."
All right.
So he goes, "You're known as the poufta shaper." So I went, "All right, so what do we do?" So we got rid of the Pipe Dream off the board, and I just started putting my logos on the board.
Oh, cool.
But that's where I got that square edge. And Morris Cole was at the cutting edge of stuff. He was pretty manic and and extremes and things he'd done, and I sort of learned a little bit off him, and so that was sort of gave me a good head start when I came back to Australia.
And that's kind of the standard today, isn't it, for basic shortboards? That's the standard, that square tail.
Square tail, but basically makes the board so you push it in and it wants to push back against you, so it gives you speed through your turns, and otherwise they just bury in. You see the guns more rounded because you want to bury them in, but it just gives you a lot more speed through your turns.
Mate, like now you're out on your own. Who are, like, you've had the team riders from Pipe Dream on your boards when you were working at Pipe Dream. Who were your first DHD team riders?
When I left, a few of them wanted to come with me. That was Scat, Pitsy. They were sort of up and coming surfers back in the Butto era. But my first real team rider was Jay Phillips.
Oh, not a bad bloke to have on your boards, mate.
And he was, his style. The Americans loved the way he surfed and stuff like that, and he was fantastic. We worked really close together. When he was at home, he was surfing really good, competing really well. But when it had to go away by himself, sit in hotel rooms by himself and not have his friends and that around it, I think it really affected him, and that's why he sort of didn't get the big results that he was wanting to do. But he was my first big team rider, I would say, and then a few years later, that's when Mick Fanning came along.
Well, world titles, champion surfers. Now you've worked with so many, have to do an extra episode for your team riders, just to name them. But mate, it must the world titles, like with Mick and with Steph, it must be like a roller coaster ride of emotion, and like doing those boards and. They have ups and downs through the year. How does that? Because you're sort of living it with them, aren't you?
Oh, you wouldn't believe. Like, I'm probably 10 to 15% of making sure they're successful. With the right boards, because you're not going to win a world title on a bad board. But just the seriousness of Mick Fanning wanting the right boards and wanting another one and another one and another one and another one. Like we'd do 100 boards a year that were.
So 100 boards a year he'd do?
Yeah. Well, that was just for me. And then when you go to Hawaii, you get another, 30 boards off Decoro. So, but, in saying that, Ethan Ewing at this stage of his life they strive for perfection.
Yeah.
And surfboards are good, but they're looking for that little 5-10%, just a little bit more speed, a little bit more hold. So, but going through the roller coaster with them. And the emotions of the losses, but the emotions of the wins they outweigh the losses, so many times. But I feel it. Like Steph's number 8, the effort that went in to get that was a lot of effort from her and a lot of effort from the team around her. So, but to get that was the pinnacle for me,
mate. Someone's told me this, I haven't seen it myself, but they reckon, like, say Mick or someone will get a stack of 10 boards and they'll go, yep, nah, yep, nah, like that. Are their eyes that good, or is it like, is that true what they do? Sometimes they just look at them before they don't actually surf them, they just sort of see something they don't like?
Like that's a Mick Fanning will do that. There's certain surfers that will and understand that. Steph's philosophy is there's no such thing as a bad board. You just got to learn how to ride it.
That's my philosophy too.
Well, that's I think everyone's philosophy when they pay $1,000 for a surfboard. But Mick did say something not very long ago that he reckons he probably in those early years didn't give some boards enough enough chance. He probably gave away gave back a lot of boards that were really good. But it's this, the saying goes with these athletes: you make 10, they'll get 2 that are amazing, 5 that are that are great, 2 that are okay, and 1 or 2 that are
they just don't like.
Just didn't, and that's because they're all handmade. They're all the timber in the stringers is the different people pouring the blanks. We've got the same guy sanding them and glassing them, but depends how they weren't that good on Fridays if I come home from the dollar night. So I knew not to shake those days.
Well, it is funny, mate. Just a little edge can make a difference. I know Alan Byrne told me with channel bottoms, he'd take a bit of wet and dry out in his pocket, take it out in the surf, and if it didn't quite feel loose enough, he'd just sand back the edge just back a little bit, and then have another wave, and then he'd go and try that. The edge is really important, isn't it?
I did that at Bell's 4 years ago with Owen Wright. I was coming in and he'd sand the edge down and he'd go back out and he goes, oh, yeah, that's feeling better, and then I'd sand a little bit more, and in the end, there was not much edge left, and then he wanted me to do a bit more. And this time, I just got the sandpaper and had a bit of dust still on the sandpaper. Just tapped it on the board and gave it back to him. And goes, "Oh yeah, that feels better." So
psychology.
It's a lot of psychology.
Yeah.
I mean, Mick's going to probably hear this, but I've done it with Mick before. He picks up a board and says it feels too heavy, so go back in the sanding bay, throw a bit of dust on it, give it back to me. Oh yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Sometimes they don't know. It's like a hairdresser, mate. They cut it how they want. Sometimes. Maybe.
I don't have that problem anymore.
Well, I do, but it's going quick, I reckon. Yeah. Mate, Steph, now she turned women's surfing on its head, mate. Like no one before has really come through on fire, like that. Like working with Steph, how easy is it or hard is it, or, what's it like working with Steph making boards?
Steph's incredible. I mean, our relationship's second to none with all my team riders. Spend a lot of time up at her place where she lives. She overlooks the ocean and having coffees and just talking about stuff. And she's such an innovator in what she wants to do on the wave and the lines she wants to draw. But in the early days, she just wanted me to give her what I was working on with Mick. So just give me what Mick's riding.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So just her size, but in everything that we did with Mick. And
like you mean bottom curves,
curve, rails, everything. Just make it to my size, and that worked really well for her. But coming back in, like when she won the one at Trestles, that was just changing some stuff that she actually had a bit of input in what she wanted to do and how she wanted to surf, and I just made some changes because I can do anything to a surfboard as long as I get the information from the surfer. I get if they tell me they want it looser, faster, drift a bit more. I know every little. It's like a mechanic. I can tune up a racing car to make it go faster, or tune the chassis to make it grip on the road. I can do that with a surfboard. That just comes from experience and comes from working with athletes at such a high end.
Well, yeah, get on that, mate. Now, you've got the world's best on your roster, mate. The surfers are incredible that you've got. Now, that's great feedback to get for your shapes, like how they go. But you personally, do you, try some stuff out for yourself and then ride at the board yourself to see how it goes as well to get that?
In the early days, I used to ride all their bad ones. Yeah. Right? When they'd come back and say, because I could still ride mixed boards back then. I could still now ride them a little bit, but to find out what the bad ones and what they were feeling. You'd never let me ride his good ones.
Nah, you're not over all that.
Yeah, but I'd ride the bad ones and get the feel. It was really bad for my surfing for about a 1.5 year period, Yeah. And really got to feel what he was feeling, and he would let me ride his third boards, which there was feelings there. And I'd go to Trestles a lot with him and surf there. That Trestles is such a great wave to test surfboards. But now it's different because I'm, over 60 and still surfing a lot. I'm now riding more and more what the public's riding, and I'm not glassing my boards super light like the team, and I'm taking boards that, some of the seconds that come through and actually riding them and really enjoying a different type of surfing because I'm not chasing Snapper and Kirra every day. I'm surfing a lot of the beach breaks just to get away from the crowds and and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, what they've taught me over the years, and now I'm really pushing that into the the everyday surfer, because that everyday surfer's really changed.
Well, yeah. Well, that leads me into my next question there. You've done it twice now. But, mate, yeah, okay, you've got your shape for Mick, Ethan, blah, 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 all these hot surfers. But then you've got DHD Designs, the brand for the general public. Mm-hmm. How does that vary from, like, what you're doing for, like, it's like a Formula One car, I suppose. You learn stuff off them, but how do you transfer that for your everyday Joe to make it work for them? Because obviously they have not got the skills of a Mick Fanning, Ethan Ewing, Liam O'Brien, that sort of thing.
You've just got to, you know how those boards go. You know how they're tuned up and super fast, super light, super reactive. And then you just, the biggest thing is the bottom rocker and the concave. If you don't have that right, you may as well just give up, you know. Yeah. Then the way the rails go, and the public out there, you know, we're all different shapes and sizes, so you've just got to have a good array of size ranges, not too many to confuse them. And I do get a lot of customers that come in and see me, and I custom order. I feel like sometimes I'm a doctor. You know, they make an appointment, tell me, you know, show me some photos of them surfing. That's the beauty of the wave pools. They show me stuff at the wave pools. I can actually make their surfing better as well, and I really enjoy that part of my work now.
Mate, I get that too, because like look at the shape of me. I'm not the shape of a Mick Fanning or anything, you know what I mean? And you got to put foam in different spots for those people.
But you can surf, right? Yeah, and that's the big difference. You can surf, and you know how to, you know, and it was bred into us. Yeah. But the people out there now that have only been surfing for, you know, 4 to 5 years, and you know they're only surfing on weekends. They just want to get out and have fun, and they just want a board that moves them, gets them from A to B, and come in with a smile on their face.
That's good, man. Like, you've got all the pro surfers, right? They get a bit of input in what they want. Has anyone come with something really different and it worked?
Anything different? Oh yeah, Mick threw in the channel bottom, the 4-channel swallow
that
tail.
He won South Africa on
South
J-Bay.
Africa, yeah, the J-Bay board. I didn't really want to make it, and he said, "Can you make one like this just for fun, for home, for snapper?" Rode it at Rainbow Snapper, and then he just took it with him, and then waves got small that day, and he beat Philippe Toledo. And believe it or not, I've actually just been making that board again for Joel Vaughan, the other guy that's on the tour. He just saw it and goes, "I want one of that, but I want 4 fins in it." Because they do like what Philippe Toledo does at Bristol's, and you know what he does in the wave pool. So, but yeah, Mick's always been someone to give me ideas. The Sweet Spot, which is a barrel board that he didn't want to ride a 6'4". Back in the day, we used to ride, you know, the waves were 6 foot. We'd go from a 6.0 board to a 6'4" board. Now
I still do.
Yeah, I know. But now these kids who have got the strength and that, they still want to stay on a 6 foot board, but they want the paddle, like John's, you know, riding that Ghost board. And but Mick was way ahead of John. He was riding the Sweet Spot, you know, 12 years ago, and just so you could, when you get in the barrel, you could turn in the barrel and riding a 6.0 instead of going to a 6.3, 6.4.
Well, that's what I find amazing, mate. I surf Sunset, and like it's a pretty hectic place, but how they get off the bottom so hard off the bottom there, because I get there and it's like, well, when do I slow down enough to get a bottom turn in for the board to hang in?
Yeah, I tried riding a 6'4" out there once, and you get the little insiders, but I was there not this year but last year. I ordered an Al Chapman. I asked for a 711.
Yeah.
And I ordered it the year before that, and I got there and it was ready for me, and I got a 9.3 single fin, red rocket, and went out Sunset on it. I could catch anything, but if you couldn't pull back, and it was actually pretty scary to surf, because on those big days, Sunset's a pretty scary wave.
Oh, man, I've only surfed at like 6 to 8, Gold Coast 6 to 8.
Oh.
And, mate, that was enough for me. You know, when it's proper, mate, it'd be terrifying because there's nowhere to hide there. No, you know, well, eventually you can sit in the channel. Eventually you got to graze some coconuts and get in there.
Yeah, you can ride any big wave on the Gold Coast that it gives you, but it's nothing to like going out Sunset. And the level of these people like Nazare and what they're doing now is just ridiculous. I'll just stick to the Gold Coast.
Yeah, and you don't get bothered with those toe boards or all that sort of
look,
stuff?
I've done toe boards before, but no, I leave it to someone like Dylan Longbottom. That's actually
he's pretty good at that. Yeah,
he's riding those waves, and I understand what they want and stuff like that. But I'm just gonna stay in my little box and make high performance and boards for myself.
Mate, you do all right at that anyway. But mate, shaping, they can't say it's an art and a science. Do you think of yourself more of an artist or an engineer?
I think if someone came in now and started doing it, I think they're more of an engineer. But I think from where I've taken surfboards from when I first planing and the flat rockers, and I changed the blank rockers for Burfords years ago, and all that sort of stuff. That I think that I'm more of an artist now. Yeah. I can mould a board with my hands and my brain, and I can understand what a person wants. And sometimes I don't. These shaping machines they have now that can be pretty close, but I don't like them to be too close because I actually do like to.
So do you leave a bit of fat on your boards so you can?
Bit,
yeah, that's Ernie Burns said he does that. He leaves a bit of fat there so I can tweak it.
Otherwise, it gets boring. It's like I can get anyone to finish off a surfboard that's got half a skill, but when you actually want to be a shaper, you actually shape the boards instead of just being a finish shaper. So it's a completely different thing.
Yeah, that's like I reckon. I don't know how many of these shapers nowadays actually have used a plane of some of these young blokes. Do you reckon?
Look, I think it's coming back.
Yeah,
and I think I've always said that there's probably 7 big brands in the world. From me, Mayhem, Posel, JS, Sharp Eye, Channel Islands, maybe a little bit of Firewire. Oh, whoops!
that's a little Freudian slip there, mate.
You got some good little guys coming up.
Yeah.
But I just think that anyone that wants to go out there and start shaping, and an 18-year-old kid, that they actually got to look for a different way of doing it. Because if you keep on copying us and just copying what we've done all the time, you're going to be competing against us. And I think that where Album came in that time and started making those, twin fins with all the colours and stuff like that, that's their little niche. And I think now, what's his name from Shaping Co., the young son.
Ben.
Ben.
Yeah.
He's making boards like his dad did, real narrow noses.
I remember those bat tails.
Yeah.
I ended up getting a bat tail off Vozzo to make me one.
I think everyone loved a bat tail back in that day. But, I just think if people are going to want to, get into shaping, I think hand planing and back like that, people do like that traditional sort of way of making boards. They will be more expensive, but.
Yeah, mate. Now, sustainability's been a big thing in surfing and everything, mate. Eco-friendly materials are sort of saying, mate, do they work for performance boards, or is there still a bit to go?
There's definitely still a bit to go. Now, in the industry, we've been buying blanks from Burford, Shaping, South Coast, Bennett, all those the big ones in America. They're the ones that should be the innovators of making user-friendly, more environmentally friendly products. It shouldn't be left up to the shapers to do it because they don't put any money back into the industry. All they do is they're like bacon bread, pop, pop, pop. It's until it really gets to a situation where some of these chemicals are not allowed to use that they'll actually start sort of playing around. But I am working with a few people on a few different things. Europe's a big one for environmentally friendly stuff, making blanks out of, they've tried it, sugarcane, corn and all that sort of stuff. It's getting closer and closer, and as more money comes in the industry, it'll get better and better. But boards are pretty well made. The blanks are strong, the cloths are strong. We don't break that many boards anymore, and even though Ethan will get 100 boards a year, they'll all be sold off to people, or I'll put them on their wall or stuff like that. So it's still pretty sustainable, but the haters will still be haters, and they'll say it's it's not this, but it's coming, but it can't be left up to us. It's got to be left up to the people. These blank companies are making a shitload of money.
Yeah, and you don't see them sponsoring any surfers or anything, do you?
They did it back in the day with the Shapers Cup, which was But that was the only thing. But they're all getting old, so there needs some people to come in and, maybe we get
up and coming chemists,
we get
surfing
Elon
chemists.
Musk to come in and build us some robots, and off we go. I can surf more.
Well, mate, where do you actually go, mate? Where do you see surfboard shaping going in the future? Like, is it going to be more computer, or do you reckon it's going to be a mix of both, or just go back to the old ways in a bit, or all over the shop?
I mean, shaping machines are here to stay. They're getting better and better, and wave pools to me are one of the things that's going to increase the amount of people surfing around the world. And
Different boards for wave pools, though?
Yes, definitely. But depends on what wave pool. I mean, I was lucky enough to go up to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, I saw you the day after that, and I was just going, "You bastard!"
3 days in Abu Dhabi. I couldn't walk after it because we caught like 180 waves in 3 days.
No way.
And even Ethan Ewing said it was the sorest he'd ever been from a surf trip.
Wow.
Because you're just intense. You got 3 minutes, and then you go again, and then someone falls off, and you're on again, and there's no paddling, and so your legs are feeling it. But that's salt water, so fantastic. It's just like the ocean. But a little bit different boards. But these wave pools, someone told me the stats, and I can't remember off the top of my head how many wave pools are planned for around the world, but it's going to really grow in getting the people out surfing. You see, what's his name? The Kelly's wave pool, the Tahitian guy. Is it Romana?
Romana, yeah.
Romana.
Yeah, in the helping people stand up on that. That's
mean,
amazing.
I asked my wife the other day, if I take you up there and get him to do that, will you do it? And she goes, I don't know until I go there.
But Doja Cat did it, didn't it? Was it Doja Cat or something? Yeah.
He's done it to a lot of people, and I think any person that gets that opportunity to stand up on a wave that, that's why I think the increasing of women surfing at the moment is because you feel so good once you stand up on the wave, and then you can't wait to wake up the next day and do it again, and you feel so good because you've had a bit of sun on your skin, salt water in your veins, and you just feel like it's a healthier lifestyle, and I think everyone likes that.
Well, I know when I was a grommet, when Dad, the first time we really got green waves, we were pushed onto waves about 1 foot at the pass, and that day, even the best barrel I've had in my life, I wasn't stoked as that little kid who was poo manning 200 metres at the pass on a 1 foot wave.
And I think we've all got a story like that.
Yeah.
Mine was at Kirra and Greenmount, and I was a goofy footer first, and then Dad said, if you're going to, I stood up 5 times as a goofy footer, and Dad goes, if you're going to live in Queensland, you got to put your feet around the other way, and I did, so. But I think everyone's got a story like that on how, your first wave, and I just think that's where the surfing's going, is that people are having this opportunity to go and surf in some fresh water, and it's no sharks, because a lot of people are scared of sharks.
Well, you got to admit though, it's always in the back of our minds.
Yeah, well, I got a guy that works for me, the night rider, and he only surfs at night.
Oh, I've seen him, mate. Yeah. I've come in right on dark, and he's paddling out.
Yeah, and he's not doing. He hasn't been doing that just for a little bit. He's been doing that since.
Oh yeah.
We'd be coming out of the dollar nights, and he'd be just coming in,
Night rider.
Yeah, the night rider. But you should do a podcast.
I think I will. They'll have to get me his contact.
Yeah,
I'd love to do that.
He is a special human I just going back to it. I just think that this is why surfing's going to increase, is because wave pools are popping up in Germany, Switzerland, in the middle of London and Abu Dhabi, and I went up there, and there was this sheik just hired the pool out for a couple of hours and took his kids, and they all learnt to surf,
Wow.
and it's going to grow more and more. And the WSL with this rising tides, where they take the young kids out, and that's given those kids such a pathway that I think it was Katie Simmons did it once.
And Aaron Brooks too.
Yeah, and they're all on the championship tour now.
Yeah.
So, but that's depending on which way you want to go. You can go cruise and just have fun, or you can try to be, a world champion.
I'd sort of make it like a indoor cricket night. I think I'd book, if there's one locally, I'd book every Thursday and have a few mates, because I reckon that's a great way to spend a night, an evening going surfing with your mates.
There's the one going to be up here in the Parkwood.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I think that's in 2027.
Yeah.
So that to me is fantastic. Get up in the morning, you've booked your waves, you catch 2 or 3 waves, have a coffee with your accountant, make him come there and write it off on tax, and then off to work. So, and then you didn't have to go out and get frustrated because you missed a wave or someone dropped in on you.
Well, the sweep's really bad, like Burley yesterday morning.
Oh, was it bad, was it?
Oh, mate, I was on a 6'6", 3 inches thick, and I could just beat the rip out wide.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's the next big thing. Motorised surfboards are coming too, so without a jet ski.
Oh, mate. Now, look, you can make yourself 1,000,000 boards to ride. You've probably got about 100 in your house or something anyway. But what's your favourite go-to board at the moment?
My favourite go-to board, what do I like? Been really enjoying riding mid-lengths at the moment.
Yeah, they are fun, aren't they?
They're fun, but, I mean, they're good for your surfing, but they're bad for your surfing. I really enjoy. Got this new twin fin one that I've been loving. I've been riding the 3-fin one for a while, but really like just cruising. It just makes surfing easy. I feel like I don't have to fight for my waves. I just sit out wide and get waves and just really enjoy it. But then coming off that and going back to a shortboard, it gets quite hard. But yeah, I've been really enjoying riding lightweight epoxy boards that I've been working on with the stringers in them that are over volumed so I can catch waves, but they're short enough so I can still throw them around.
That's for when it's small sort of thing?
Not small, like I'll serve 3 to 4 foot D-bar on a 6'2".
All right.
Yeah, you got to remember when I was 17, 18, I was riding second-hand pipe dream boards because I was working in Strawberry Field Surf Shop as a kid. And I had this 6'2", 19, 2 1/4 back in the box. And I remember having a surf at Kirra that day and went, I will never change my measurements. I'm 6'2", 19 forever. Yeah. Because I had a great surf. And I've gone all the way down to 5'9" and then all the way back up to 6'6". But I just find that I'm just really enjoying riding 6'1", 6'2s now because you can actually – you don't do 5 turns on a wave, but you do 3, but they're actually turns.
And you can drop your back foot into it.
You can lean and lean back a little bit more. And so I've actually started to enjoy that. I think it's just an age thing, but really enjoy that. Mid-lengths and then going to the pool, I enjoy that's when I can ride the smaller stuff. Yeah. It hurts. Because it's a lot of work in your legs, but it doesn't hurt your shoulders because you're not fighting for waves.
Mate, do you ever see yourself stepping away from making boards, or do you reckon it's a lifelong obsession?
Oh, mate, I'll be in my grave, putting my hand on, going, just make sure that one board's ready. And I think that was grained into me from Murray Burton. Yeah. But I see when I get old enough, I'll do stuff like Al Chapman does, and I'll just, or it's just some of the legend guys. It's just, hand plane 1 or 2 boards a week, get them glossed up really nice, charge a little bit extra for them, and that'll keep me in the water and in the foam and fiberglass. So I'm sort of looking forward to retirement someday.
Some days,
But at the moment, it's just churn and until Ethan wins a world title or Molly this year. So I'm just chasing that dream of helping these Australian surfers, achieve their goals.
Mate, that's awesome. Chasing the dreams, mate. It's been a pleasure to have you on the green room, mate. Well done. Thank you very much for coming, Darren. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into The Green Room. A big thank you to our guests for sharing their stories and insights, our producer Sarah, and Podfire for bringing this podcast to life. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a review, and share The Green Room with your friends. We'll catch you next time for more conversations with the legends of surf and beyond. Until then, catch you in the waves.